The story begins when a boy wakes up from his dream and he has no worries. He looks around and realizes that the maid who woke him up at this time is nowhere to be found. He quickly gets up and gets ready before the maid arrives. This boy's name is Isak. He walks down the hallway as many butlers and maids bow down to greet him. Too much respect for an isekai character, Isak died after being overrun by almighty Truck-kun. He was reincarnated as a noble's child. This kid is quite interested in history and books. What a nerd. He locks himself in the study room and reads books. The maids look at him and are shocked by this precocious child. Isak reads the history and realizes that this world's history is completely different from his previous world. Did the painter win in this world? He lets out a smile, recognizing the world he was born in. Just then, a girl comes rushing towards Isak. She holds his hand and asks him to play with her. This girl's name is Tiffany. She is Isak's cousin. Isak understood it when he first saw her. I have a bad feeling about this. She is from a game that his sister used to play in his previous life. It was an otome game based on love conquests. Osamu Takashi, currently known as Isak, used to work at a blacklisted pub after failing to find a job. He remembers seeing Tiffany in that game which his sister used to play. Tiffany is the victim whose fiancé is stolen by the game's protagonist. Typical love triangle. Isak knows the future because he has seen the entire walkthrough on a site his sister was using. In other words, Osamu Takashi has been reborn in the world of the otome game his little sister was playing. Isak stands in the ground, wondering about his role in this game. Just then, another midget calls out to him. He hangs Isak like a piñata. It turns out to be his half-brother, Nathan. Isak's family consists of his father, Randolph, his mother, Lucia, his half-mother, Melinda, and his half-brother, Nathan. This is the Marquis Wellrod family. Nathan bullies Isak before leaving. He tells him that he is going to play with him again tomorrow. Talk about brotherly love. Tiffany approaches Isak, asking if he is fine. Isak understands that Nathan might try to kill him since he is the son of his first wife and has a superior right of inheritance. Isak thinks that to live peacefully he will have to live quietly as the second son. However, that would be a waste. Later, Isak cooks up some cookies and gives instructions to the chefs. This man knows his previous life. Next, he makes up a report so good it puts accountants to shame. Randolph and Lucia are proud of Isak and how well he has grown. Everyone in the castle compliments Isak. Nathan grits his teeth in jealousy. He runs back to his mommy, whining like a little p-word he is. Melinda, his mother, reassures him that Isak is not going to be the next head of the family. She assures Nathan that he will be the next head. Melinda's expressions turn grim. She promises never to allow that child to inherit anything. Meanwhile, Isak is busy playing with his puppy and enjoying the sweet scent of flowers. Isak finally turned 6. Around that time, people started to praise Isak's ability to read, write, and even calculate at such an age. They say that the Wellrod family is in good hands. Elsewhere, a strange girl walks towards her gallery and calls out to her brother as if he can hear her. The next day, Isak travels to the capital by carriage. My man is about to vomit his entire guts out. Unpaved and cobblestone roads are not his cup of tea. Every year, all nobles gather at the capital from winter to spring. Isak wasn't able to join in due to his age. However, he is 6 now. He can finally join the trip to the capital. However, he finds it nothing but an exhausting task. Isak looks outside the carriage and the market catches his eye. This is the first time he has seen this world. In the city, Isak comes across Catherine, his mother's old friend. She keeps her distance due to a status difference. Finally, she gathers courage and talks with Lucia. She embraces him, and they both share a moment of joy. Today, they have all gathered in the capital to celebrate the birthday of another brat who has turned 10 today, Lisa, the daughter of Nurse Adele. However, it was a different meeting for Isak. He sits before Jerome Windsor, the head of the noble house of Windsor. Jerome was looking forward to meeting with Isak since his grandfather Morgan kept bragging about him. Morgan laughs a bit and says that Isak seems a bit nervous. The poor guy is overwhelmed by Jerome's presence. Isak finally gathers enough courage to speak up. He greets Jerome in such a delicate and elegant manner that it leaves their jaws wide open. Jerome finally realizes why his grandfather is so proud of him. However, he brags that his granddaughter Pamela can already write and calculate at such a young age. Isak says that he wants to meet with Pamela since he wants to make some new friends. Jerome orders his butler to call out Pamela. Isak thinks about her funny drill hair, barely controlling his laughter just by thinking about her hair. Just then, Pamela enters the room. Isak turns his face and his expectations are thrown out of the window. His heart skips a beat and he rises from his seat. Isak goes straight, introducing himself. He doesn't hesitate for a second and asks her to marry him. This man has no control over himself. He finally understood what he had just said. Pamela leaves the room and runs away. Straight up rejected, Jerome says that it was expected of the son of Randolph. He tells Isak that it seems like Pamela doesn't hate him. However, he tells him that Pamela is already engaged to the crown prince, Jason. Isak understands that this is something he cannot impose. The poor guy cries all the way back in his carriage. Morgan tries to comfort him, saying that he will find someone suitable for him. Isak raises his face, smiling as tears drop from his face. He thanks his grandfather. Later, Isak covers himself under the sheets, crying like a baby. Isak knows what comes next. Prince Jason will break his engagement with Pamela and sentence her to death. He wonders if this is really okay to let it happen. He gets up and shouts in his gallery that he loves Pamela. This man is crazy in love. He promises not to let her get executed. He makes it his life purpose to usurp the throne for the sake of Pamela. Ah, love can make a man blind. After the Pamela incident, Isak wanted to grow up fast since he was still being treated as a 5-year-old child despite his best efforts to act mature. His father invited multiple people. Isak thought that it would help him to observe them and make connections in the future. One day, Dennis, the head of the Black Guild, approached Randolph with a business deal. His deal was nothing but a scam. This man is about to flick around and find out. Isak understood it quite well. He tried to warn his father. However, Randolph was all high and mighty. He refused to listen to a child's suggestion. Typical royalty pride. Isak insists and gets slapped across the face. That slap could be heard across the room. Randolph scolds him, saying that he has never earned a single coin in his life and he knows no better. He shouts at him to leave the room. Isak comes out of the room thinking to himself that a guy in his 30s shouldn't cry over a slap. However, tears began to roll down his cheeks as if he were actually 5 years old. After that, Randolph signed the deal. A month passed by and the guy who promised a profit disappeared. Randolph was thoroughly deceived. Should have listened to his son when he had the chance. Dennis offered to return the $100 million investment. However, Randolph refused. Dennis successfully set a trap for Randolph. Isak cannot let this happen. When he returned to Welrod territory, he went straight to his grandfather, asking for the right to trade 10 kilograms of Tillery Hills iron each month. Morgan tells him that the iron ore isn't of great quality. However, it doesn't matter to Isak. Randolph intervenes, asking why Isak would think of running a business in such a remote place. Isak repeats his father's words when he told him that he had not earned a single coin in his life. He wants to build a track record. Morgan tells Isak that such matters can wait until he is a bit older. This kid is impatient. Isak snaps, saying that Dennis had ill intentions. He is cunning. He made the refund offer, knowing well that his father would refuse it. Isak continues to explain that he is exploiting his father and will continue to deceive him unless stopped. Isak cannot let someone like that run free. This man has more guts than his father. Isak bows down, asking for a chance to prove himself. Randolph remains speechless. It looks like that cat got his tongue. Morgan tells Isak that iron ore doesn't sell for more than 100,000 leads at most. He wants to know how he plans to make a profit out of it. Isak smiles mischievously and whispers something in Morgan's ear. Morgan is shocked as if he has just learned the secrets of the universe. He asks Isak just how he learned such things. Isak had observed his grandfather's work firsthand in the capital. Later, Isak heads out to Tiller Hills. On the way, he starts feeling sick as the road is rocky and uneven. Poor guy vomits more than he chewed. Later, he arrives at Baron Orglin's estate in Tiller Hills mining town. Later, he welcomes the Merchant Guild members who have traveled from afar. Jacob, Ivan, and Henry. These are the merchants. They look at Isak and start to whisper, saying many things. They realize that something must be fishy since this business meeting is in such a remote place. Isak thinks that the sharp ones have gathered here. He begins the negotiations. He asks them to purchase 10 kilograms of iron ore. However, Isak adds that he intends to decide on the buyer through a competitive auction. The merchants' jaws drop. It is blatant bribery demands. They think of an amount and put it inside the bid box. Isak takes him out and realizes that the White Guild is the only one taking this seriously. He announces that the White Guild won the first point. The merchants are baffled after they hear this. Isak explains that they will hold a total of 10 bidding rounds and whoever takes 4 points will secure the win. He also adds that the guild with the most wins will become his official merchant when he becomes lord in the future. This kid is sly as a fox. The merchants shout that they didn't know about this condition before. If they had, they would have bid higher. They fell right into his trap. Isak's face turns grim and he tells them that it is their fault for bidding as low as a child's allowance. Orglin watches Isak's moves with interest. Isak tells Henry that he can set one rule since he won first as the White Guild merchant. Henry sets a rule that all bid amounts except the winning one should be disclosed. Additionally, Isak sets some rules of his own. No interference with other merchants' bids. Funds are to be brought to the site, otherwise anything goes. Thus, the historic first auction came to an end. Orglin is surprised by how this kid thinks. What first started as a mere merchant deal turned into a competition to become the official merchant. He is certain that he is the one who will be the successor of the Well-Rod family. The next day, Isak heads out to the forest to look for Matsukare mushrooms. He heads into the forest with 5 of his guards. One of them finds a bunch of mushrooms. Isak's eyes sparkle as if he has hit a jackpot. Isak begins to cook them right in the forest. He loves the smell of roasted mushrooms. Meanwhile, the guards cover their noses, saying that it smells like sweaty underpants. Isak's jaw drops as he complains that he was about to eat mushrooms. There was no need for such comparison. It looks like this world's palette is quite different from Isak's previous world. Just then, an elf lady appears there. She asks if she can join in with Isak. Isak's face turns red as he finds a beautiful elf. The soldiers step forward, asking Isak to stand back. They explain that they haven't had contact with the elves for the last 20 years. They are usually hostile towards humans. The elf snaps back, saying that she is only here for some mushrooms. Isak diffuses the situation, saying that she is simply here for mushrooms and means no hostility. The hunter tells Isak that elves are harmless and they have had contact before. Later, Isak and his guards travel into the elves' town deep in the forest. The elf's name is Bridget. She agreed to bring Isak to the elves' village. However, his guards are about to poop in their pants. In this world, there was a great war between humans, elves, and dwarves about 200 years ago. Bridget pats Isak as if he were a little child. She tells him that they even borrow fire from humans from time to time. Isak asks why they don't just use fire magic. Isak realized long ago that this world has magic. However, he has no talent for it and ended up crying all night because of it. Talk about bad luck. Bridget explains that fire magic is complicated. Isak makes a poker face, saying that even elves are bad at magic. Bridget tries to defend herself, saying that they have perks and cons too. She explains that she is pretty good with earth magic. He asks if she can turn soil into stone. Bridget smiles with confidence and says that she can certainly do that. Finally, some use of this elf. Isak asks her to turn the square on the dirt into a stone. Bridget begins to chant nonsense and forms a perfect square tile. Isak asks how many tiles she can create in a day. She says about 10 steps worth. Isak begins to calculate all the possibilities. His face turns grim as he cooks up a plan. He lets out a sinister laugh. This kid is a menace. Isak then turns to Bridget, asking if he can meet with the most important person in the elven village. He tells her that he wants to make a deal with that person. Later, Morgan shouts at Isak for his recklessness. He explains that the elves are evil creatures. Isak tells him that it is not the case. He furthered that the elves are quite different from history. Morgan assesses the situation and eventually permits Isak. Morgan asks just what he would trade with them. Isak tells him something and Morgan's jaw drops. He states that this is an outrageous thing to do. Later, at the edge of the Eastern Elf Forest, they gather for their meeting. Elves arrive there as well. Isak welcomes them. He introduces Morgan and Orglin. The elven village head, Aloys, introduces himself and the elder Matthias. The negotiation between humans and elves after 200 years. Morgan starts with a condolence about the tragedies of the Great War. Matthias tells him that they are not here to punish the descendants to pay for the sins of their fathers. They begin to trade talk. Isak intervenes and asks elves to work under humans. Elves are shocked to hear this offer. Isak points out that he understands their hesitation since elves were sold into labor in the past. However, he prefers to treat them well. He explains that their magic is beneficial to them. Isak wants their help with infrastructure, using their earth magic to pave roads along the highway. Aloy's mouth is wide open and he cannot believe Isak's demands. This is straight up slavery. Isak puts it out that he wants them to use their magic to improve the country's transportation network. He adds that they will be paid handsomely, roughly 20,000 leads each day per person. That is about 40 kilograms of salt. The elves are surprised to hear this offer. Isak tells them that their magic is worth that much at least. Elves are flattered. They ask the elder for guidance. Money talks. Matthias tells Isak that he has but one condition. He wants Isak to marry Bridget. Everyone is surprised to hear this weird offer, especially Randolph. That man has been eyeing the elven women. Morgan thinks that there must be something suspicious. Isak asks what would happen if he refuses. Matthias tells him the deal will be off. Isak thinks for a moment and says that the negotiations are off. Everyone stares in disbelief. Randolph asks Isak if it is really okay to go that far. Bridget shouts at Isak asking why he is rejecting her. Poor girl can't handle rejection. Isak points out that he has no complaints about Bridget. However, elves despise the concept of slavery, and yet their elder is offering up a woman. He cannot forgive it. Isak adds that he won't deal with untrustworthy people like them. Isak begins to walk away. Like a pro, Matthias calls out to him, asking him to wait. Aloy says that he seems trustworthy. Matthias tells Isak that he passed. They accept his proposal. Isak bursts out on them, asking if they were really just testing him. Matthias explains that they have been betrayed in the past, so they just wanted to make sure they are making the right decision this time. Isak asks what would have happened if he had accepted the deal. Aloys tells him that he would have rejected the deal. Bridget knew this all along. Isak bites his lips in frustration. He is like an angry skunk. Randolph and Morgan are also relieved that Isak is still just a kid. Isak thinks that he is over 30. Inside, he is still a proper man. He was so close to being swayed by Bridget's beauty. However, she wasn't his type, luckily. She is a flat-chested woman, which is not his type. Thus, no one realized that the weight of chest fat decided the fate of human-elf diplomatic relations after 200 years. The negotiations concluded successfully. Later that night, Morgan tells Isak that his negotiations were commendable, but still, the series of reckless decisions he has made today, while still so young, deserves a spanking. He continues to spank Isak for being an overconfident brat. Isak cries and whines like a baby while apologizing to Morgan. In the end, he is still just a 5-year-old child. Isak thinks that he cannot wait to grow up fast. After a few days, Randolph stands in the middle of Taylor, a location where many merchants pass through. He announces, like a merchant here to sell shady things, that the animosity between elves and humans ends today. He furthered that they will cooperate from now on. Isak is also present there. He thinks that the day road construction starts today. The people of the town are still afraid of the elves. They wonder if it is really okay to be working with the elves. Randolph tells them that they are about to witness the turning point in history. He calls out to Lord Aloys. Aloys walks towards the road and begins to chant random mambo jumbo. Suddenly, stones begin to form from the ground. In just a few seconds, the road is covered with perfect square bricks, creating a perfect road for transportation. The surrounding people stare in awe. Elise asks Isak if this is what he wanted the road to look like. The people started to talk about how it would be quite difficult for humans to transport bricks with their hands. This work was done by the elf in just a matter of seconds, not to mention the beauty of the road. They are all amazed by the elf's power. Isak thanks Elise for his great work. Ailey says that this is going to be a symbol of friendship and peace between humans and elves. He further adds that they can rest easy now. He looks at the crowd and finds their faces full of excitement and delight. Isak says that it was a great success, and so the elves' road construction project firmly took its first successful step. Later, Bridget arrives at Isak's house. She is surprised by the sheer number of rooms his mansion has. Isak makes a poker face and asks her not to get carried away. This girl is carefree like a butterfly. She points out that they are going to live there anyway. However, Claude, the elven representative resident ambassador, tells her to realize that they are on an important mission. Isak realizes that the elven beauty for both men and women is overwhelming everyone in the mansion. They are all swayed like rabbits in heat. Just then, Nathan arrives there. He says that it seems like Isak has become too important to host guests. Nathan complains that he didn't even introduce his brother to everyone. Isak says that a troublesome guy has appeared. Nathan thinks of himself as the heir and considers Isak nothing but a nuisance. If he learns that Isak is doing something beneficial for this family, he might try to do something underhanded. Isak wonders what he should do. Just then, Bridget greets Nathan with joy on her face. This girl doesn't read the room. Surprisingly, Nathan feels flattered and walks towards Bridget. Isaac is surprised to see Nathan so calm and obedient. Nathan comes down the stairs and blushes while introducing himself to Bridget. It looks like my man has fallen in love at first sight. Isaac thinks that this is the same guy who has endlessly bullied him since childhood. He has never seen this side of Nathan. Isaac tries to control his laughter. Claude looks at Isaac and asks if something is wrong. Isaac realizes that Nathan is just a child in the end. Isaac thinks that as he deepens his ties with the elves, parallel to that, there is something he must do. He goes back to Tilly Hills to begin the 7th auction. This time, Morgan and Randolph have joined in as well. Morgan tells the bidders that they are here to just observe. However, the merchants are sweating heavily due to their presence. Poor merchants will have trouble bidding. Just then, Dennis comes there as well. Isaac looks at him and spaces out. Dennis is the same person who framed Randolph and scammed him. Isaac tells the other bidders that there are no restrictions for other bidders to join in, so he cannot throw Dennis out. Dennis mocks them, saying that he feels sorry for them. He explains that he heard the rumors that the one with the most wins will become the Welrod family's exclusive merchant in the future. It is an opportunity he cannot miss. Randolph asks in disbelief if it is true. Isaac understands that if he backs away from his statement, it will break other bidders' trust. He accepts the rumors to be true. He says that even a con artist like Dennis can become his household merchant. He promises that. Dennis understands that Isaac is still holding a grudge over that incident. However, he has already made him promise not to let personal feelings interfere. Isaac asks his secretary trainee to lay out the rules. The trainee explains all the rules to everyone. Dennis thinks that the rules are simple, but they have to outsmart other bidders. The bidding begins. Isaac checks the notes and announces that the Grey Company wins the bid. He further adds that Grey Company only needs one more win to reach 4 wins. Randolph takes a sigh of relief. He had thought that Isaac might be doing something strange, but it turned out to be normal bidding. Isaac has built a cunning personality, it seems. Isaac ends the auction. Dennis raises his hand, saying that he has an objection. This man really needs some slapping. He asks if it is a trap set for him since they aren't announcing the winning bid amount. The other bidders call him out, saying that he shouldn't make baseless accusations. Isaac shows him the other amounts. They are far better than Dennis. Isaac's expressions turn dark. He tells Dennis that he forgot that this is a bid for the position of exclusive merchant, not just iron ore. He shows his disappointment. Dennis grits his teeth, saying that he was naive. Isaac wishes him good luck for the next 4 auctions. Dennis says that he will do his best. Isaac smirks, thinking that Dennis finally took the bait. One day, out of the blue, an unexpected encounter happened. One of the butlers informs Isaac that Baron Netherholtz has come to visit. Try saying that name 3 times in a row. This man was Isaac's teacher during his stay in the capital. It turns out his house was completely burned down. Netherholtz explains the entire situation. Isaac asks if he needs help arranging the money. Netherholtz explains that he has something he would like to sell. He calls Nicole to bring that thing inside. Isaac realizes that he has heard this name before. It turns out to be this game's protagonist, Nicole. Pure protagonist entry. Previously, Isaac's former tutor arrived at his estate after losing his home in a fire and falling into overwhelming debt. He sends his granddaughter carrying an item she wishes to sell. Unknown to everyone else, Nicole is a girl who reincarnates into the world of an otome game. Nicole steps into the room with a cheerful smile and an energetic presence. The moment Isaac sees her, he freezes in place. His heart beats wildly against his chest, unable to understand the sudden surge of affection that overwhelms him. He stares at her in confusion, wondering if he already struggles to resist her now, then what will happen when she grows older. Isaac cannot help but think that people in this world may fall for her one after another. The most powerful noble in the room loses composure over a girl with a jar and calls it a normal Tuesday. After that, Isaac quickly shakes his head and regains control of himself. Composing his expression, he politely returns her greeting and introduces himself as a son of the Marquise Welrod family. Nicole appears pleased to meet him, although her nervousness remains visible. Soon afterward, Isaac notices the jar she carries, asking about its contents. The moment Nicole removes the lid, he finds himself staring in disbelief. The substance inside is brown and far from appealing. To Isaac, it resembles bird droppings more than food. He loses composure for the 2nd time in 5 minutes, a personal record. Nicole calmly stirs the mixture with a spoon, explaining that it is chocolate made from a natural fruit. Isaac's eyes brighten immediately. He remembers how even the simple cookies he creates are treated as luxurious sweets in this world. If chocolate exists here, it undoubtedly holds enormous value. Meanwhile, Isaac's assistant watches the scene with complete confusion, unable to identify the strange substance before him. Knowing how rare such a product is, Isaac asks whether Nicole intends to sell the chocolate itself. Instead, Nicole presents a document describing the manufacturing process. At once, Isaac understands her strategy. Rather than selling a limited supply of chocolate, she plans to sell the production method itself. She invents franchising in a world that has not even figured out what chocolate is yet. By controlling the information, she greatly limits potential competitors and makes imitation far more difficult. Nicole nods with a bright smile when Isaac voices his observation. His assistant also praises her intelligence, impressed that someone so young thinks so carefully about business. That evening, Isaac warns his assistant not to consume too much chocolate. The assistant has already become completely captivated by its flavor, openly declaring that he intends to purchase large quantities once it reaches the market. Isaac responds with a satisfied grin. He reveals that he purchased a manufacturing method for an amount that more than covers Terrence's debts. The assistant falls in love with chocolate and Isaac falls in love with profit. They are both down bad just for different reasons. In his opinion, Nicole now has enough support and should focus on becoming stronger following the main storyline of the game. Since he comes from another world, Isaac still remembers many details of the otome game. The story revolves around stolen love, especially the famous romance candidates that belong to his older sister's generation. He recalls several notable love interests, including Gomans and the others who become famous for their unsettling laughs. The love interests are famous for unsettling laughs, which raises the question of what exactly his sister found attractive about that. Among them stands Crown Prince Jason, whom Isaac considers a decent man despite being Pamela's fiancé. He just silently hopes that the protagonist puts genuine effort into pursuing the romance routes. As he enjoys another taste of chocolate, he confirms that it is truly delicious. Yet one question is, how does Nicole know how to create chocolate in a world where it should not exist? Meanwhile, news of Isaac's latest success spreads throughout the estate and beyond. People are astonished to learn that the young master apparently earns more than 8 billion leads. Even the maids cannot stop praising the achievement of a child who is only 7 years old. With accomplishments like these, many people already view Isaac as the future successor of the Welrod family. People call him the future successor at 7 years old. Most kids his age are nothing except their mother's headache. However, one person strongly opposes that idea. The moment Nathan hears the news, anger boils inside him. Veins bulge across his forehead as frustration consumes him. He firmly believes that he alone deserves to inherit the Welrod family. Grinding his teeth, he curses the fact that everyone now recognizes Isaac's growing fortune and accomplishments. At this point, his face is doing more work than he ever has. Elsewhere, Nathan's mother stands before a window in a tense room. After a moment, she glances over her shoulder. In her eyes, Nathan is the only rightful successor of the Welrod family. Kneeling before her is Bernard Kincaid. He immediately agrees with her statement. When she asks what should be done about the obstacles standing in Nathan's path, Bernard calmly replies that he has already begun taking care of the matter. Nathan's mother lets out a quiet chuckle. She confidently declares that Nathan will be officially recognized as the successor on his 10th birthday. Even so, she insists that Isaac must disappear and wants everyone to acknowledge Nathan alone as the rightful heir of the Welrod family. Nathan's birthday is the deadline for Isaac's disappearance, which is a very unusual birthday gift to plan. During the night, someone attempts to assassinate Isaac while he is supposed to be sleeping in his bed. Fortunately, he is not there when the attack occurs. When his friends hear about the incident, they are completely shocked. They immediately ask how it happened and who is responsible for such an attack. Isaac simply smiles and assures them that he knows how to keep himself safe. His friends point out that this is already the third assassination attempt against him within a single month. The situation is far too dangerous to ignore. Isaac calmly sips his tea while listening to their concerns. Deep down, he already knows who is behind these repeated attacks. Melinda wants Nathan to become the rightful successor of the Welrod family. In a struggle over inheritance, every decision carries consequences, and a single mistake can determine whether someone lives or dies. 3 failed assassination attempts, the assassins should just find a different career. Meanwhile, Isaac continues to maintain smooth relations with the elves. The elves establish successful trade connections that eventually lead to the Wanderers. At the same time, preparations for the bidding at Teary Hill reach their final stage. Soon the moment arrives to announce the auction results. Isaac begins revealing the rankings from the lowest bids upward. Raid Color or Lead White occupy the lowest positions. Watching from the crowd, Dennis smiles confidently. He firmly believes that victory belongs to him once again. Before submitting his offer, he carefully calculates the likely bids of every competitor. To guarantee success, he doubles his previous amount and places a bid of 9 billion. In his mind, the outcome is already decided. He convinces himself that he has secured the position of official merchant for the Welrod family. Dennis has already mentally moved into the Welrod family's good graces, a conclusion he reaches entirely alone. Then Isaac announces the first place bidder to Gray Trading Company. The winning bid stands at only 1 billion. The announcement instantly drains all color from Dennis's face. Isaac cheerfully declares Gray Trading Company as the official winner. Dennis immediately loses control and shouts in disbelief. The entire venue falls silent. Isaac calmly turns toward him and presents a promissory note as evidence. The document clearly shows that Isaac lends funds to Gray Trading Company. At that moment, Dennis's legs begin to tremble. Beads of sweat form across his forehead as reality slowly sinks in. He cannot accept that he has lost. Isaac proceeds to explain every detail. Isaac proves everything is completely legitimate with a smile, which is somehow more devastating than if he just laughs. Through Isaac's support, Gray Trading Company secures the winning position. Dennis remains speechless. His mouth hangs open as he struggles to process what he hears, then explains that the profits earned from previous auctions are stored in full and later withdrawn in bulk when necessary. Despite the explanation, Dennis refuses to accept defeat. He accuses Isaac of abusing the authority of the Welrod family and claims that such actions violate the auction's rules. In response, Isaac calmly presents the official rulebook. The regulations clearly state that Lord Isaac is permitted to provide assistance during the bidding process. Faced with undeniable evidence, Dennis can only curse the rule as an unfair loophole, as if losing an auction is a human rights violation. By this point, Isaac had completely lost his patience. He slams his fist onto the table and orders Dennis to accept the outcome. According to Isaac, the loss results entirely from Dennis's own mistakes. The force of the impact sends the stone bouncing from the table before they crash onto the floor. Disappointment fills Dennis. Although he realizes that Isaac is technically correct, he still believes that the situation is more than simple retaliation for the fraud he once committed. Later, Isaac studies the wheel ruts left by passing vehicles. He notices that noble carriages come in many different sizes while freight wagons follow standardized dimensions for transporting cargo. From this observation, he understands how Dennis ultimately falls victim to his own logic. Even so, Isaac gives Dennis credit for the cleverness of the idea. Isaac gives credit to Dennis, which is the intellectual equivalent of complimenting someone's technique after they accidentally punch themselves. With that, the fierce bidding competition at Teary Hill finally comes to an end on a positive note. By September, the elves establish a formal political system of their own. Their representative arrives as an official envoy of friendship and receives state honors. Friendly diplomatic relations begin to form between the elves and the kingdom. However, despite all these accomplishments, one problem still remains. Miss Bridget throws a tantrum like a small child, repeatedly insisting that she wants to visit the glamorous capital. Watching her behavior, Isaac releases an exhausted sigh. Her stubbornness gives him yet another headache to deal with. Isaac brokers peace with an entire elvish civilization but cannot negotiate a single ceasefire with Miss Bridget. Bridget stands with her arms crossed behind her back, her eyes sparkling with excitement. With a confident smile, she declares that she wants to visit the royal capital no matter what. She quickly adds that if Isaac is not planning to take anyone with him, then he should take her instead. In her mind, there is no reason for him to refuse. A three-part combo she clearly rehearsed in the mirror for exactly this negotiation. After all, she firmly believes that everyone in the royal capital would be delighted to have a beauty like her accompanying them. Isaac immediately shakes his head. The answer is a clear no. The moment Bridget hears his refusal, panic spreads across her face. She protests the same complaint over and over again without stopping. The elves are preparing to travel and formally greet the king, yet she focuses entirely on joining the trip. Her frustration grows with every passing moment. Bridget continues throwing a tantrum in an attempt to change Isaac's mind. But Isaac remains unmoved. He calmly explains that bringing her to the royal capital would only create unnecessary trouble. Bridget throws a tantrum so committed that the elves briefly reconsider diplomacy. Still, Bridget pouts and glares at him. She complains that he is being mean or unfair. Isaac ignores her protests. Deep down, he has his own reasons for refusing. He knows that if Bridget travels to the royal capital, her relationship with Nathan is likely to become even closer. She already appears comfortable around him and does not seem bothered whenever Nathan openly expresses his feelings toward her. That possibility leaves a bitter feeling in Isaac's mind. His expression darkens slightly. He knows that in the future Nathan will become an obstacle that he intends to remove. The villain's origin story was not a bitter betrayal, it was just Bridget being a little too comfortable around Nathan at the wrong moment. Because of that, keeping Bridget away from him is the safest option. Isaac quietly releases a long breath. Without turning around, he delivers his final decision that she is staying home. There is no room for discussion. After making himself perfectly clear, Isaac begins walking away. As he leaves, he explains that he is still a child himself and cannot take responsibility if any problems occur in the royal capital. With that, the conversation comes to an end. Time passes. Isaac assumes that Bridget eventually gives up on the idea. After all, he believes his refusal is firm enough to settle the matter. His final excuse is that he is still a child himself, which is a remarkable argument from someone who was just privately plotting to eliminate a romantic rival. The other day, while peacefully enjoying a cup of tea, a servant approached him with a message that his father wished to see him. Isaac immediately rises from his seat to head toward the room where his father is waiting. As he walks through the halls, countless possibilities run through his mind. He cannot help wondering if he has caused another problem or if he is about to receive a lecture. Knowing his circumstances, either possibility seems entirely believable. When he finally reaches the room, the sight before him completely catches him off guard. For a brief moment, he simply stares. Melinda stands there, Nathan stands beside her, Bridget is there as well. The atmosphere inside the room feels strangely tense. Isaac's gaze immediately shifts toward Bridget. The moment he notices the smile on her face, a sense of dread creeps into his heart. His expression instantly falls. A deep frown forms on his face as he realizes that whatever is happening here, it is probably not going to end in his favor. The room full of people suggests Bridget was better at planning than Isaac was at refusing. Isaac stands quietly as his father questions him about Bridget's participation in the trip to the royal capital. His father wants to know whether he truly opposes allowing her to accompany them. Before Isaac can respond, Nathan speaks with a smug expression. He mocks Isaac, remarks on how cruel it is to leave Bridget behind while everyone else travels to the capital. Hearing Nathan defend her, Bridget's cheeks turn slightly red. A bright smile spreads across her face. She appears genuinely pleased by his support. It is somehow worse in a completely different way. After releasing a quiet sigh, he decides to approach the matter differently. Instead of arguing further, he asks what Claude thinks about the issue. The moment Claude's name is mentioned, Bridget's eyes light up, eagerly explaining that Claude believes she possesses more experience plus knowledge than most people expect. According to him, she should adapt well to life in the royal capital and handle herself without much difficulty. As Bridget finishes speaking, Isaac's expression sinks even further. At this point, he realizes that everyone else seems to support her decision. If he continues objecting, he alone will appear unreasonable. That is not a position he wishes to place himself in. After a brief pause, Isaac finally gives his approval. He agrees to let Bridget accompany them to the royal capital. However, he makes sure to remind everyone that he already expressed his concerns regarding the matter. Isaac gives his approval with the energy of a man signing a document he knows he will regret. The moment she hears his answer, Bridget bursts with excitement. Without hesitation, she rushes toward him, shaking him enthusiastically in celebration. Isaac immediately frowns, rolling his eyes in annoyance. He points out that this kind of reckless behavior is exactly what he warns her about. Bridget pays little attention to the complaint, seeing no reason to remain any longer, and leaving the room. As he makes his way back, countless thoughts occupy his mind. He cannot stop worrying about the potential problems Bridget might create in the royal capital. If she makes a serious mistake there, the responsibility may ultimately fall upon the Welrod family. That possibility alone is troubling enough. Yet another concern continues to bother him even more. Throughout the entire discussion, Melinda remains completely silent. The memory of her expression lingers in his mind. She somehow delivers the most powerful argument in the room. For some reason, her silence feels far more intimidating than any argument she could have made. Isaac knows that if she truly wishes to support Bridget's participation, she possesses enough influence to approve it without even listening to his opinion. That fact only makes her behavior more unsettling. The eerie silence lodges itself in Isaac's heart long after the meeting ends, proving that the quietest person in the room always does the most damage. After that, Dennis calmly pours wine into 2 glasses. Across from him sits Melinda. A quiet chuckle escapes her lips as they raise their glasses and lightly tap them together before taking a sip. The atmosphere between them is strangely relaxed. Dennis remarks that he has a surprise prepared for Isaac. The statement immediately amuses Melinda. The two share a sinister laugh as they continue drinking together. At the same time, Bridget can barely contain her excitement. Back in her room, she eagerly sorts through her collection of dresses. One after another, she examines them, trying to decide which outfit she should wear during the trip to the royal capital. Her enthusiasm grows with every passing moment. Meanwhile, Isaac remains far less optimistic. Even now, a small part of him wonders whether they truly intend to bring Bridget along. For reasons he cannot fully explain, he has a feeling that the journey ahead may become far more troublesome than anyone expects. Isaac cannot fully explain his feeling that the journey will be troublesome, possibly because the list of reasons is too long to process all at once. Isaac finally reached the royal capital, only to be left out of the political talks because he was still considered a child. Rather than complain, he visited his new sweets shop. Although it was always crowded, profits weren't as high as expected because nobles occupied tables for hours over tea, limiting customer turnover. On the other hand, takeout sweets sold out so quickly that the kitchen couldn't keep up. Isaac's first idea was to expand the shop, but Bart pointed out that the empty land was needed for carriage parking. Instead, Isaac came up with a smarter solution: build a separate kitchen nearby dedicated to takeout items. This would increase production while allowing customers who only wanted baked goods to skip the long cafe lines. As demand continued to grow, Isaac realized he also needed more staff. Alexis reported that the newly hired bakers were experienced and could follow recipes, but they still needed more training before they could develop new desserts. Since House Wellrod only hired skilled confectioners, Isaac was confident they would improve with time. Isaac's ambitions kept growing. His plan was simple. First, build a dedicated takeout kitchen, then open a second sweet shop, followed by a third. The focus of the business shifted from meeting demand to building a bakery empire. However, his attention soon shifted when an incident involving the elves threatened the ongoing negotiations. Brigitte admitted she reacted after a man grabbed her, while Claude blamed himself for not staying by her side. Instead of assigning blame, Isaac proposed a clear protocol, warning the offender, disengaging, reporting the incident, and only using force if the attacker refused to stop. Meanwhile, Randolph explained that the diplomatic incident began when a drunken noble grabbed Brigitte during a reception, causing panic and ending the event. Everyone agreed it was not a conspiracy, just one man's foolish actions. Isaac proposed punishing the noble, permanently banning him from interacting with elves and putting the decision in writing. When concerns were raised about punishing Brigitte, Isaac argued she had acted out of fear rooted in the elves' history of human enslavement, so she should only receive a warning. He also insisted that crimes involving elves be judged under elven law during official exchanges to prevent false accusations or forced servitude. Although Randolph worried this could create future legal issues, Isaac believed the diplomatic benefits outweighed the risks. To strengthen their position, he advised threatening to end negotiations if the terms were rejected, knowing King Elias valued restoring relations with the elves too much to let the talks collapse. He knew the king would not throw everything away over one disgraceful courtier and would accept uneven terms if they kept the path to peace open. Isaac also understood that the treaty was not permanent, and that a future king could always amend it later and earn praise for doing so. That night, Alois and Randolph presented their demands to Reed's Chamberlain, including punishing the noble and banning him from all contact with elves, issuing a formal apology, enforcing a code of conduct, and allowing elves to be judged under elven law during official exchanges. They also warned that rejecting these terms would end the negotiations. After an hour, the Chamberlain returned with the king's response. The crown accepted almost everything. The noble was removed from duty, publicly fined, banned from elven affairs, the code of conduct was approved, and the kingdom accepted limited elven legal authority during official exchanges. Alois accepted the terms, Randolph countersigned them, and the treaty language was set to be finalized at dawn. Back in the servants' hall, Brigitte stood before her peers while Claude delivered the promised scolding, which was brief, firm, and final. Brigitte acknowledged that she should have called the guard first and resolved to do so in the future. No one argued, and the new protocol, warning first, disengaging, reporting the incident, and allowing guards to escalate as needed, was displayed beside the door. Morgan gently corrected Isaac, explaining that caring only about protecting his own was not enough, and that a true leader had to consider everyone affected by his decisions, even strangers. He instructed Isaac to write 2 letters, one to the foreign ministry apologizing for how the demands had been presented and making it clear that the final judgment belonged to them, and another to Viscount Gilmore's family acknowledging the shame and burden they had suffered without excusing the noble's actions. Morgan also reminded Isaac that whenever he made difficult decisions, he had to consider every consequence and ensure others did not bear the cost of his choices. Randolph promised not to place such responsibility on Isaac again without Morgan's guidance, while Morgan encouraged both of them to learn from the incident. As Isaac reflected on the lesson, he realized he could protect the negotiations while still showing compassion to people he had never met. Morgan continued teaching him because he believed Isaac was worth guiding. Unlike Jude, who treated even family as pieces on a chessboard, Isaac still possessed a kind and human heart. Morgan had seen this in the way Isaac treated elves no differently than humans, something even he struggled to do. Although Isaac's kindness could be naive, it showed his ability to accept others without prejudice, leading Morgan to believe he could become a better leader if he continued learning. Morgan further taught Isaac that the world was not divided into simple allies and enemies, as allies could become enemies while opponents could still become valuable allies. He urged Isaac to broaden his perspective and avoid judging people solely by their affiliations. Although Morgan felt he was being harsh on a 7-year-old, he believed correcting Isaac's thinking early was better than allowing him to inherit the same flaws that had affected previous generations of House Welrod. After accepting the lecture, Isaac and Randolph left the room, both weighed down by Morgan's words. Randolph apologized for involving Isaac, while Isaac admitted the criticism had been deserved. Reflecting on his previous life, Isaac realized his world had always been small, limited to classmates, co-workers, and a handful of acquaintances. He recognized that he had judged people too simply, failing to see that enemies could exist within his own family, such as Melinda and Nathan, while someone from an opposing faction like Viscount Gilmore could still be capable of understanding his side. Randolph encouraged him to learn from the mistake rather than dwell on it. As they walked together, they met Brigitte, who looked visibly troubled. After calming down, she admitted she believed kneeing the noble in the face had been excessive and that a slap might have been enough. Although the outcome had politically benefited the elves, she acknowledged it had been the wrong response during a diplomatic gathering. Isaac jokingly asked why her playful teasing of him was acceptable while the noble's touch was not. Brigitte explained that teasing a child was harmless, whereas being touched by an adult man carried entirely different intentions and made her feel threatened. Isaac outwardly acted as though he did not understand, while secretly hoping she would continue teasing him rather than begin treating him differently. After the lecture, Randolph suggested taking a break over tea since all 3 of them had been scolded. He hoped some casual conversation would clear their minds and also wanted to get to know Brigitte better, as humans and elves would be working closely together in the future. Brigitte readily agreed, wanting to move past the unpleasant atmosphere while remembering the lesson she had learned. Isaac reminded them not to forget the reason they had been scolded, prompting Brigitte to point out that he had received the same treatment. Randolph laughed, remarking that there was no point arguing when all 3 had been thoroughly lectured. With the tension finally eased, they headed to the living room for tea, hoping to relax, reflect on the day's events, and better understand one another. During tea, Tiffany was surprised to learn that even Isaac had been scolded by his grandfather. Isaac admitted that he sometimes made mistakes and explained that while he could accept punishment when he knew he was wrong, it hurt far more to realize he had been naive after believing he had done the right thing. Even so, he chose to treat those moments as lessons for the future. The conversation then shifted to Tiffany's new baby brother, Mike. She lovingly described him as cute, though she joked that he looked a little strange because he was still a baby with barely any hair. Isaac remarked that she was lucky to have a younger sibling, prompting Lucia to awkwardly explain that children were gifts from the gods before quickly changing the subject to avoid an uncomfortable discussion about how babies were born. She instead asked Tiffany about meeting Brigitte. Tiffany excitedly praised Brigitte's beauty, making the elf happily hug her. Brigitte found Tiffany's honest and affectionate personality refreshing since most of her interactions with humans had been formal. Isaac always kept a respectful distance while Nathan was too shy to get close, making Tiffany's warmth especially enjoyable. Watching them together, Karen commented that elves were not so different from humans after all. Apart from their long ears, beauty, and slightly different diet, Brigitte behaved just like any other person, making the frightening stories found in old books seem more like prejudice than reality. Lucia agreed, saying she had met noble daughters who were just as energetic and mischievous as Brigitte. The light-hearted atmosphere continued when Brigitte playfully complained that Isaac had been cold toward her lately. Tiffany teased Isaac for being distant towards someone so beautiful, while Isaac could only sigh in confusion as Brigitte quietly enjoyed putting him on the spot, knowing he could never be harsh in front of a child. Karen jokingly suggested that perhaps Isaac simply thought Tiffany was cuter than Brigitte, making Tiffany happily accept the compliment. Brigitte played along with exaggerated disappointment, while Isaac wisely chose not to explain his real thoughts and simply let the joke pass. Brigitte, however, seemed amused and already appeared to be planning how to tease him again. The cheerful atmosphere continued, giving Isaac a much-needed distraction after Morgan's harsh lecture. Nathan, however, was far from cheerful. The more Isaac succeeded, the more frustrated and jealous he became. What bothered him most was the recent incident involving Brigitte. He had wanted to be the one to help her, but Randolph had trusted Isaac instead, leaving Nathan feeling humiliated. To vent his anger, he spent his days sparring with the Manor's knights. Despite already being strong enough to defeat trained soldiers, he still felt overlooked, believing Isaac received all the praise simply because he was clever. After defeating one knight, Nathan continued striking him with a wooden sword long after the duel had ended, using the training session as an outlet for his frustration rather than practice. This behavior was nothing new, but the recent events had made him even more aggressive, leaving the knights bruised despite their protective armor. Furious, Nathan mocked them for losing to a child before storming back toward the manor. He couldn't accept that Isaac was trusted with important responsibilities such as traveling alone to Teary Hill, while he himself was still treated like someone who couldn't be relied upon. Watching Nathan leave, the battered knights quietly admitted that although they could endure the pain for now, they feared they would not be able to keep taking the abuse if his outbursts continued. Although the knights were skilled warriors, Nathan's temper made every sparring session dangerous. Whenever he lost his patience, he would continue attacking after the match ended, and he had even lied or twisted stories to Melinda to get knights dismissed. Afraid of losing their positions and hoping Nathan would one day inherit House Walrod, the knights silently endured his abuse. While they were recovering from another harsh training session, Isaac approached them and politely apologized for his brother's behavior. The knights insisted he had nothing to apologize for, but Isaac still handed them a small jar of herbal ointment made by Claude and the elves. Surprised, they realized it was rare elven medicine that even many nobles could not obtain and initially refused to accept such a valuable gift. Isaac calmly insisted, explaining that it had been given to him, and as Isaac Wellrod, he was ordering them to use it for their injuries. Unable to refuse, the knights gratefully accepted the ointment. Before leaving, Isaac told them to ask him for more whenever they needed it, and requested that they continue looking after Nathan. After he walked away, the knights looked at the precious jar in disbelief. Joking that they certainly could not sell something so valuable for drinking money, they agreed the best choice was simply to use it. Still unsure, Irvin hesitated until Hakim opened the jar and applied a little of the white ointment to a bruise on his wrist. To their amazement, the bruise began fading almost immediately. They realized the salva contained elven magic, making it far more effective than ordinary medicine. Although not as powerful as healing magic, it was an incredibly valuable remedy for people who could not use magic. Both knights were amazed that Isaac had given away something so precious without a second thought. They began applying the ointment to each other's injuries, with Hakim asking Irvin to rub some onto the bruises on his back. As they treated their wounds, they talked about Isaac. Hakim remarked that despite all the attention surrounding him, Isaac was genuinely kind and even remembered the names of ordinary knights like them, while Nathan simply addressed them as "you." They also recalled hearing that Isaac had rewarded the guards who accompanied him to Teary Hill, reinforcing his reputation for generosity. Irvin admitted that if things continued this way, he would rather see Isaac become the heir than Nathan. Realizing the jar still contained plenty of ointment, they decided to share it with the other knights, knowing it would only improve Isaac's reputation further.